If you're anything like me, after the first few weeks of Zoom sessions in this remote learning and teaching environment, I was feeling really defeated. I was sure that they weren't effective. I was sure that students weren't engaged. I was sure that I needed to make a significant change in order to better meet my students' needs. I was thinking that maybe I need to go way more towards the asynchronous route and hold less of these Zoom meetings. But I was wrong. And I'll tell you how I know that. And if you are feeling like I was, you might be wrong as well. And I also want to tell you in this video what needs to change about how we interpret our success and our effectiveness in teaching and learning remotely. I had been working hard all summer long to make sure that my classroom experiences were as good as they can be in this online and digital learning world. I took classes, I read articles, I did workshops, I did everything you could think of, and I implemented so much. I felt like I was doing everything right. I was starting Zoom sessions out with music, and we'd play music, and I'd welcome students in as they hopped in, and I'd call them by their names, and I'd say hi in chat or hi verbally and try to engage students in both. I don't require cameras on, but I always encourage them to turn them on. I play silly games at the start of every class. In fact, my favorite one is Listicles here. I'll have it linked in the description below. I engage students. We do breakout rooms. We do collaborative Google Docs. We would do Jamboards. All of these different things. And yet I felt like I was teaching into the void. I felt like I was teaching to crickets, that I was getting no engagement. And of course there's a few students who really were engaging really well, but in a class of 45 to only have 5 or 6 really engaging was really discouraging. What I recently decided to do was that I need to know exactly how students think things are going. If you watched my video yesterday, and I'll have it linked right up above, in these virtual interactions and these virtual meeting spaces, so much of what our brain uses to assess how an interaction is going, whether it's going good or bad, all these very nuanced nonverbal cues are either extremely hindered or completely eliminated. I realized that this is what we would normally use when teaching a class face-to-face. I would gauge the class's attitude, gauge how are they focusing on me? Are they looking around? Are they distracted by what's in front of them? Are they seeming tired, energized, right? All of these things you can pick up in a face-to-face classroom. They're much harder to pick up online, and I realized that I was still relying on those cues to let me know how I was doing. So what I decided to do was send out a survey. I'm like, something has to change. Let's hear it from the students. And this survey was completely anonymous. I wanted students to be honest and open and constructive. So I made it completely anonymous. I made it completely optional. And a good number of my students did it, and I found out some really interesting information, and information that turned my attitude and my perspective around. And so I want to share it with you in hopes that the same thing can happen. So let's go ahead and look at the survey that I gave my students, and I'm going to give you a copy of it in the description below as well. So if you want to see it for yourself or use it and tailor off of it, it's completely there and available to you. So here it is, and I start with just a little message to my students, wanting them or telling them how much I value that they are going to give me some feedback, and that's how I know how to improve, and that we are all learning and trying to figure this out and doing our best, and sometimes that means pivoting, even for the best of us. So I kind of try to set them up to be in this constructive mindset and let them know that their opinion is valued and matters. And so the first thing I start is I really the thing that I was struggling with was the Zoom sessions. I was wondering, are these effective or not? And so I asked 3 questions about each of our Zoom sessions. And the way I structure my class, I have very specific goals and agendas for each of our sessions. So Mondays we do a weekly overview and prep where we talk key points and expectations and assignments and make sure they're set up for success for the week. Wednesdays are watch parties where we watch and engage with our material together. I can go more in depth about the things that we are looking at or things I want them to pay attention to and answer questions on the fly. Fridays is kind of like an open content review and discussion. An important thing to note with how I structure my classes is the majority of these online meetings are completely optional. I have a few mandatory ones in each module, but otherwise they're completely optional. So I'm sitting here wondering, these are optional. Why are they coming if they're not engaging and if they don't want to be here? So what I asked students is I said, on a 1 to 5 scale, from not helpful to very helpful, how useful or helpful do you find the Monday overview Zoom sessions? And then I asked students to elaborate. If you gave it a 3 or under, suggest how you might improve it, or feel free to add suggestions regardless of your rating. So I kind of asked, I didn't ask them to explain and justify their rating. I asked for suggestions. And when they give those suggestions, it will explain and justify their rating. But this is a way that I can tailor it to get more meaningful feedback out of it. So I asked them, how would you improve it? If you said it wasn't helpful, how might you improve it? And I got really great responses. And then I asked a 4 or above. Again, I didn't ask for them to justify their rating. I asked them to tell me what makes it valuable. So give me a specific example that makes it valuable to you. And then I offered it up that people can add suggestions regardless of their rating. So I did these 3 questions for each of my 3 Zoom sessions each week. The Monday, the Wednesday, and the Friday. And then I asked, because this is kind of what I was thinking of doing, I said, if I were to hold more open office hours but cancel some of our weekly optional Zoom sessions, would this benefit or hinder you? And I asked them to consider it beyond just the academics, but their mental health, their energy, their schedule, and their week and semester as a whole. And I asked them 1 to 5, this would severely hinder me or this would really help me. And then finally, I asked 2 last questions regarding our meetings and how I have the overall structure. I said, in general, do you have any thoughts or comments about our Zoom sessions you would like to share? And how do you feel about our current level of balance between synchronous expectations, so collaborative work and meetings at the same time, versus asynchronous and independent work? And I had 3 be as is, so good as is, with 1 asking them or saying they'd like more synchronous expectations, and 5 being they want more asynchronous expectations or work. So what did I find out from this? Well, I found out that students are really valuing the Zoom sessions. They are there, they are engaged, the ratings for all of these were in the 4s and the 5s, except for the watch parties. The watch parties were like 2s or 3s. And I looked at my attendance in the following days, and I have classes of 45, and I had 38 people coming to an optional meeting. 38 people showing up to an optional meeting tells me that there's value here, and their feedback let me know they value it, and they value it for getting set up for the week. And some of them just like to come in, listen, and make sure. And if you think about a face-to-face class, you're not hearing and speaking to every one of your students. A lot of them are quiet the whole time. And students had almost no suggestions for those Monday ones. They thought they were great. And that made me feel really good. It let me know that it was working, but I had to get those cues by directly asking. I needed to request, ask, and create this pointed survey to get what I would have normally been able to infer, at least on a day-to-day basis, during in-class sessions. Students had some suggestions for improving the watch parties, but they also let me know why they were ineffective, which allowed me to start brainstorming and thinking about how we could change those meetings. And then students felt the Friday sessions were the most valuable sessions of the week because they had time to digest their material, they had time to work on their expectations for the week, and they had a chance to come in and ask questions. And again, a lot of them were there and they told me this. They said, I didn't have really any specific questions myself, but I found that coming and listening to other people's questions helped me get questions that I didn't know I had answered. So they're getting a ton of value out of this. And this is what I mean by the truth about the Zoom sessions are my students are finding it extremely helpful. My perspective of how it was going shifted from one end of the spectrum of not effective at all and I need to make major changes to it is extremely effective and I need to lean into these. There's one I can change, but otherwise the majority of what's going on is great and students are appreciating that. Students want the Zoom sessions. They want to be a part of it. These are students who traditionally go to classes, and yes, online learning has traditionally been very asynchronous, but that's been the expectation when you sign up for those types of classes. We are dealing with a population who's used to in-person, collaborative, hands-on, interactive work, and they want that. And so they want the Zoom sessions. And so maybe we just need to tailor how they're being delivered, but also we need to practice teaching to that void. They are there, they are listening. And I know to you, talking to the camera lens probably feels like you're teaching to the void and that you're not getting that interaction. And it's true that you're not getting those nonverbal cues. So you need to get that reinforcement in other ways, and you need to have the mindset that they are there, they are getting value, and they appreciate that you are there in it with them. So I hope this video has helped you start this mindset shift of the Zoom sessions and the cameras off or on. Things are going better than you think they are. It also is more important than ever to get student feedback in ways that we don't normally do more often than we normally would. And so to that end, I have a whole workshop that's going to be launching Monday, and you can follow the link down below. But in this workshop, if you've been feeling like you don't really know how your course is going, you are like me where you are struggling with understanding what's working and what's not, and you feel like something has to change, well, this workshop is going to guide you through multiple different ways of creating and getting feedback from students. In it, I'm going to include a bunch of templates for things like exit tickets and surveys and exam wrappers and ideas for in-class polls and quick, easy ways to get student feedback. That is how we are going to have to navigate this online learning. We can't do it in the same way. So if you want to learn how to effectively get student feedback and navigate these online and remote learning waters, join me in that webinar. I would love to have you. Whether you join me or not, be sure to like and subscribe to this video. I have more ideas and content coming out, and I'd love to throw some of my own freebies in there with it, like the survey that I used. Again, get that down in the comments below. It's ready to go. Make a copy of it for yourself and tailor it to how you need. I hope you find it useful. You can also find us on Facebook if you're a compassionate educator who's striving to create innovative and inclusive classroom experiences. Join us on Facebook. Just search Epic Higher Ed Group. We've got a private Facebook group that is completely supportive and engaging, and we facilitate good, constructive conversations that help us improve as educators. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.